Today, we're going to be discussing the topic of cloud versus on-premise, and then we're going to link it back to the strategy for digital transformation and what is the right approach. But before we start off, we're just going to do some brief introductions. Just a little bit about me. My name is Sean Walsh. I'm one of the technical managers at Cetrix. My background is in engineering, but I've also dabbled in software, marketing, CRM, and general digital technologies for the last 8 years. Today, my co-host will be Isna Junaid. She's the country account manager in Saudi Arabia. And Isna, if you're there, I'll allow you to introduce yourself. Maybe Isna's having some difficulties with the software at the moment. Just a second, sorry. Okay, not to worry. I think there's just some technical difficulties. Isna will join us again, but I can introduce her. She is the country account manager in Saudi Arabia, and she'll also be helping me a bit with the hosting. So she manages strategic accounts in Saudi Arabia.
Hello, Sean.
Hey, Isna, you're there. Great.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was just call. So, hi everybody. It's an honor for us to have you all here, and we are very thankful for all of you for taking time out for this webinar. So, my name is Isna Junaid. I'm handling the position of the country account manager of Cetrix Cloud. I'm taking care of all the strategic accounts in Saudi Arabia in multiple industries, and my job and my role is to basically contact the right people, get their business requirements, and then streamline all the resources to submit and deliver them a custom solution which is needed for the organization goals. So this is the role I'm playing, and I'm very closely collaborating with the Citrix resources and our partners, including Salesforce, HubSpot, and Genesys. So I'm kind of like a middle person, communicating everybody together. And it's been an amazing journey with Citrix in the past 7 months, and so that's all about me. So Sean, it's up to you.
Thanks very much, Isna. That's fantastic. So just to introduce Cetrix, we're a cloud services provider. As Isna mentioned, we are partners of HubSpot, Salesforce, and Genesys, along with other digital technologies. And our goal and our role is to help transform your business by helping you adopt the correct digital transformation strategy, and then also to help you implement that technology. So we offer various different types of cloud-based technology services, ranging from CRM, marketing automation, website design and build, and even mobile app development. So we cover a lot of different bases. We've been doing this for quite a long time. So we have a lot of experiences in helping different types of businesses across various different industries to implement their own digital transformation strategy. Okay. So what are we going to discuss today? So we're going to look at what on-premise and cloud mean. So what do those two terms actually mean from a very basic level? But then we're also going to discuss the pros and the cons of each of them. And then we're going to link it together by asking a number of questions that will help you decide what the correct strategy is for you when it comes to making your own digital transformation decisions. So today, the presentation is kind of targeted towards C-level executives and directors. However, if you're not one of those, that's absolutely no problem whatsoever. If you're in IT or operations, you'll also get something from this. And we hope we can inform you. So please feel free at any time to just pop questions into the chat within the webinar. We're going to have some time at the end for a Q&A where either Isna or myself will answer your questions. But please feel free to communicate on there. Okay. So just to quickly, why we're actually discussing this is because at the core of Vision 2030 is for private companies in Saudi Arabia to help fuel the growth of the economy. And really key to this is reaching a level of digitization that will help achieve this goal. So this is one in a series of webinars surrounding digital transformation that will help you to understand what you can achieve and also how you can achieve it. Okay, so we're trying to link it to Vision 2030 so you can see where the application is and see some of the motives behind. Okay, so let's move on and get into the actual topic. So let's look at it from the perspective of why we're asking this question, cloud versus on-premise. Why is there a difference? Why is there a debate? Well, if you just look to the right, you can see the pie charts. And what these pie charts are describing is the difference between 2008 and today. And it's showing the adoption of on-premise versus cloud. So in 2008, 88% of software installations for enterprises or businesses was done in an on-premise basis. Whereas fast forward to today, and we actually see the inverse, the opposite of this, cloud-based installations or use of software is actually more prevalent today than it was just over 11 years ago. So really, there's been a huge shift in understanding of these technologies and the adoption. But there's still this question, which should I choose? And this arises because of a number of reasons. The cloud technology is newer. On-premise was the standard for a long time. Cloud can still be viewed as emerging technology. And then it's sort of just human nature that it just takes us time to change and adapt. So it takes time for us to build trust. There may be misconceptions and misinformation about the different technologies. And unfortunately, if one business is offering cloud and another one is offering on-premise, they'll usually talk about the other in a negative way. So that, unfortunately for us, leaves this question open, or which one should I use? So we'll hope to answer that today and go into some of the pros and cons. So if we just move on, we'll take a look at what the actual definition of on-premise is. So we're just going to focus on the definitions of both of these. So on-premise is software that's hosted within a fixed location within the business or within the company. Usually this will be within the four walls of the actual organization. So these are servers that are bought or owned or rented by the business, and the software is physically installed on those. And those machines, those servers, actually live within the organization. There is no third parties attached to them. The software that's usually run in an on-premise fashion requires a license. It's usually one license per user. Okay? So on-premise are servers that run software that are owned by and managed by the business itself. No third parties are involved. Okay? So let's look at this from the perspective now of the pros and the cons of, we're going to start with on-premise, but also we're going to look at cloud. So what are some of the pros of an on-premise installation? Well, we're going to look at security and the privacy surrounding your data, the control you have over your data, and then in industries that are strictly regulated, the compliance that you may need to meet and how on-premise can help with that. Okay, so we're going to look at these three areas. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail now. So from a security perspective, companies that have extra sensitive information, let's say if it is a government department or a business in the banking industry, they have to have a very certain strict level of security and privacy. And on-premise usually provides that very well. So whether you're in government, insurance, health, financial, there's concerns you have over the integrity and the safety of the data. So an on-premise solution will very much help with that situation because security will be a primary concern when it comes to very specific types of information. What about the control you have over your data? Well, in an on-premise installation of software, the data is retained within your organization. It is only on those servers. It's accessible by you. So if there was something that would happen, let's say there's some downtime and it was difficult to access the data point, that would not be such a problem because you still have access to the data. It's not like with a third party, if they're having downtime, you can't access your data. If you're having issues on your on-premise, there's still the option to access your data. You're not blocked out. So it's very useful from that perspective because you have control over what happens with the data. And you also control how long the data is retained as well. So how long do you keep hold of this information before you delete it to make space? In industries that have to conform to very strict compliance, where they're very heavily regulated, on-premise is very useful here because you have a very deep knowledge of where the data is, what data is being stored, and in order to meet the regulations of the law, an on-premise installation is very useful for this, depending on what industries you're in. Okay. So nothing is perfect. Everything has its drawbacks. So we're going to look at a number here. We're going to consider the security, the cost, maintenance, lack of scalability, and the integration. So again, we're going to go into a bit of detail of these. So despite the fact that on-premise can seem to be incredibly safe and secure, it is also open to imperfection. Humans are still interacting with this software, with this server. They still have access to all of the data. And even though it's behind a firewall, it can still be hackable. So people can still access this information from within the organization and at times externally as well. Take, for instance, the example of an employee that is upset and wants to retaliate towards the company because maybe they've been fired. Well, this system is also open to this type of attack. Now, while that might be limited and rare, it's still a concern that you would have to take into consideration. The next aspect, and probably one of the fundamental ones in terms of a con of an on-premise installation, is the cost. So the initial upfront cost of an on-premise installation is very high. There's a lot of server hardware to consider. There's also the power, the electricity, and AC costs that have to be factored in. There's also usually in a larger installation, there is fixed server room space that needs to be dedicated. And all of these things combined can unfortunately cause the cost of an on-premise installation to kind of spiral out of control. So this really has to be factored into the budget. Can we actually afford to do this? Kind of coupled with that is the fact that it has to be maintained as well. IT is responsible for the upkeep of the servers. They have to ensure that they're operating all the time. You have to have responsible individuals on payroll available 24/7 to make sure that everything is running smoothly. The facilities team within the business also needs to be involved because they're involved with the power, the electricity, and the air conditioning to the server room. And then the company itself is responsible when a breakdown occurs or there's any downtime and the system can't be accessed. So all these things have to be factored into the solution that we decide on. It can be quite difficult to scale an on-premise solution as well. So if the company grows, you face a challenge when trying to scale up the number of users that are using the on-premise software. The other side of it is that you may be stuck with the technology that existed when the software was initially built, and you're reliant on infrequent updates, perhaps once a year or twice a year. And if you have issues with this or you notice any bugs, it takes quite a time for them to be solved. Provisioning people, actually giving them access to the system, can be difficult to automate at times and requires quite a lot of human interaction. It's also a major challenge to integrate an on-premise system with another on-premise system or a cloud-based system. So it's a huge undertaking for a business to actually go about doing, and it costs a lot of money. You need to consider things like access to the database, to the source code. It may be very difficult to have access to the APIs, the ways of getting data in and out of a program. And if you want to migrate data from one platform to another, it can be very difficult to do. So again, these are things we need to consider about the system that we decide to install in our business. Okay, so all of that being said now, we've looked at pros and cons of an on-premise solution. We're going to change slightly and look at cloud. So again, just to keep it a really basic, what is cloud-based software? What are we talking about? So although it can seem like a strange term, cloud is just software that is hosted on someone else's servers. And usually you access the system through a browser. So you don't need to have a fixed server that you own, run, and maintain. That's someone else's problem. So they use virtual technology that will host your application. So there's a number of cloud vendors, think Salesforce, think Oracle, and they allow you access their software through a browser. So instead of you having to own any of that equipment, you don't. So you just have login credentials, a username and a password, and then you have an instance of the software right in front of you on your browser. That's what we talk about when we're talking about cloud. So what are the pros of cloud? We're going to look at this again from the perspective of pros and cons. So we'll take a look at the cost, the ease of deployment, the fact there's no maintenance, that it can scale very well, and we can also integrate very easily. So when it comes to the cost, you only pay on an as-needed basis, and you can scale up or down depending on your usage, the requirements of your users, and how fast the company is growing or if it's slowing down. So there's very little expense in terms of upfront costs of having to get servers installed within your business. That's not a concern. And ultimately, you only pay for what you use. And you have no maintenance or upkeep to look after the equipment. You're just paying perhaps a subscription fee for the use of the software. In terms of deployment, it's very unsophisticated. It's easy to set up and use. It's easy to add and reduce capacity. You can access your data very easily, no problem whatsoever. There isn't any need for interaction with IT to provision access and so on. You just use the software through your browser. Once you have a browser installed on your computer, which they all do, then you can access the software through cloud. In terms of your own internal IT team, there's no need for them to be on call to maintain the server or the system. You don't need to service the server. Even downtime is handled by a third party, the provider of the software. So there's no need for people to be on call 24/7. And usually these companies will offer what's called a service level agreement, an SLA, and that is an agreement between you and them that say that they will ensure that their system is operational 99.9% of the time, and that they have to live up to that agreement. So it takes a lot of pressure off the business to upkeep and maintain the system. Cloud-based services are very scalable. You can ask and request for more on an as-needed basis. So whether you need more access to database or to processing power, that can happen very easily. but it's only when necessary that those resources are provisioned. So you're not paying for something that you're not using. So it ends up being very cost effective. And from the integration side of things, it's very easy to integrate systems together. The systems can talk to each other easily, and usually there's public APIs. An API is just an access point to extract or input certain types of data into a system. So it's very easy to connect two cloud-based softwares together and integrate them and pass the data of those systems together. It's not a large undertaking. It can be done very easily. And there's a lot of actually cloud-based services that allow you to connect one system to another with the click of a button. So it's much less of a complex system when it comes to integration than on-premise. But as we've discussed, no system is perfect. So there are cons to cloud-based as well. So we're going to look at the control you have of your data, the security surrounding it, and then also compliance. So because the data is stored externally outside of your business, there is a certain level of risk involved. So again, depending on the industry that you're in, it can be heavily regulated. So maybe this is not an option for you because of the risk that is involved. Because the data resides within the third-party provider, if there's unexpected downtime, you mightn't be able to access the data. Whereas with an on-premise system, if that happens, you still have access to your data. There's been a lot of security breaches surrounding cloud-based services. And they've been very well publicized. And unfortunately, it has been the main barrier to people adopting cloud services. So it can be very, depending again on what industry you're in, if there's very private data stored in the cloud, this is a possibility. It's also a possibility with on-premise, but those systems, the breaches of them aren't as well publicized, whereas because cloud is such a new technology, it's in the public's eye a bit more. But this is a definite concern and a drawback. Okay, so we've looked at mainly public cloud installations here. But what I'd like to do is just give you a brief overview of some of the other options. There's other type of cloud services that can help with issues that are seen with public cloud. So just very briefly, we'll take a look at private cloud. In terms of how it works, it's the exact same technically. You access through your browser, it's third-party hosted. However, your business's data is given its own server in the third party's server farm. So you can customize the installation, the storage, and the network components. You have very high control over all the information. It's very strict security, privacy, and reliability. So for an extra fee, you can have your own server that only you have access to. In a public cloud, that's not the case. Other people are using that server with you, and their data is also stored on that. Then there's also hybrid cloud, which is a mix and match. So for instance, you could have sensitive information on the private cloud on your own server, but if there's more general information, you can have that on a public server. Again, it comes in at a reasonable price because you're not paying for what you don't need. It's very good and scalable and flexible. And again, there's this improved security and privacy because you've got your own server with just your data on it. Okay. So again, each of these individual points can probably be a webinar on their own. They're all a lot of information surrounding them. What we're just trying to do is give you a good overview of the way you can approach this. So just to summarize what we've been talking about, with regards to an on-premise installation, there is a lot of ongoing costs. There's maintenance, there's the installation, there's the rental perhaps of the server hardware. It can be difficult to scale this up because you have to purchase more capacity. Whereas with cloud or software as a service or infrastructure as a service based installation, you're just paying for subscription fees. You don't have to pay for equipment fees. You're not paying power or air conditioning. You can upgrade things very quickly. It can be rolled out across the organization in a very quick manner as well. So again, there's a balance that we have to strike depending on the data and the industry that we're in versus the flexibility and scalability that we need. Okay. So this brings us back to the question then, what type of system should I choose for my digital transformation strategy? So is on-premise more suitable for me, or can I go down the route of cloud? Well, let's first consider the question, what is digital transformation? Perhaps some of you know, but let's just look at it. So digital transformation is a strategy, it's a methodology that really encourages you to use the technology you have at your disposal to update your business processes. So basically, it's asking you to question the way in which you do business and asking you, can I do these things better? So it helps you to make informed decisions about your customers so that you can deliver the service that they want. And it's very customer focused. It really centers on solving for the customer, because when you do that, you ensure your company's success. So digital transformation is the use of technology to make informed decisions, to make new business processes, new ways of doing business, so that ultimately you can ensure your company's success. Okay. So what can we do with digital transformation? So rather than asking how much faster can we do the same things, we have to now ask ourselves, well, what's the technology capable of? What can it give us? What can I extract from it? And then how can I use that data to adapt the business and its processes so I get the most out of this technology? So what I'd like you to do now is to consider cloud or on-premise from these 5 areas. Are you in an industry that requires on-premise software, or is there a degree of flexibility? Is security or privacy a major concern of yours? What about the regulation from the government, for instance, and other bodies that ensure that data is stored and managed a certain way? What about the budget or the cost involved? And then do we have the IT skills? So with those 5 points in mind, let's again question what the technology can do. So we're now going to look at these 3 individual points. These are questions we need to ask ourselves, and I'm going to try and, rather than answer the question for you, I'm going to give you some ideas as to what you should be able to get out of your technology, whether cloud or on-premise. So ask yourself, is a technology available in an on-premise or a cloud installation that allows me to make informed decisions? Will it help me update my business processes? And then can it deliver a personalized experience to my customers? Because these 3 elements are core to digital transformation. These are the things we need to think about when we're forming our strategy. So the first one we're going to look at is the technology that's needed. So this is an example of an analytics tool that you can use. It's known as Google Analytics. Probably some of you have heard of it, if not all of you. So what we need to ask ourselves is there an on-premise version of this, or is it purely in the cloud? Can I find out the level of detail that this is giving me through whatever solution I decide to go with? Can I see where my visitors are coming from? Does it give me a breakdown of if they found me organically, if they found me through social media? What is the amount of sessions or conversions that my website is attracting? So do I have this level of detail? Because when I have this information and I see, for instance, something like organic search is quite high in the ranking of how people are finding me, I can start to optimize those aspects of my website. So perhaps I want to form a better content strategy to drive up this metric, because I understand that people who find me organically, they're very engaged and they actually want to purchase something. So can I optimize this? What about personalization? So HubSpot, a cloud-based marketing technology platform, allows you to personalize the content that people see depending on the stages that they're in their life cycle. So I may start out as a stranger or a visitor to their website, and I'm given a brief introductory message. But over time, after I buy the software, it starts to personalize my experience for me. So I'm no longer an anonymous visitor. I'm now given a name and I'm given a welcome back. So again, can the technology that I'm deciding on, can it do this? Does it have this level of detail? What about from the perspective of the business intelligence that the solution offers me? Can I easily access this type of information? Does it show me, for instance, where in the sales funnel where different opportunities are? Does it give me information as to what time and what type of activity my sales reps are spending on different types of activities? Because if I have that data point, I can start to question the business processes and say, are we doing this most efficiently? Are we doing this most effectively? So moving on, will it help the business to update its processes? So ask yourself the question, does the solution just allow me to do the same things faster, or can it help improve on or even create new business processes? Is it easy to access this information? Do I need IT's help to generate a report or a dashboard to see what the health of the business is? Or can I do it myself? These are things we need to keep in mind when it comes to choosing what's right for us. So take, for instance, the support organization within your business. One of the major concerns that business owners, executives, and directors have is the aftercare support of their customers. It is much easier to retain a customer than it is to get a new one. So does the on-premise or the cloud solution give you the level of detail that you can see here? Is it showing me the total amount of requests, for instance? Is it showing me how much revenue I'm sacrificing by support? And if it gives me those details, I can then go, okay, is there something I can do to change it? Can I reduce the cost so that instead of this being a cost center to the business, can I make it a value add? Can I start to offer different types of premier services to our customers to ensure that we offset the cost of support? Further metrics that you can dig into, depending on the solution you go with, which you need to ask yourself is, how quickly can we respond to tickets? How many calls have we unresolved? Again, can I improve these metrics? Going into it a little bit deeper, can the system help me capture information on the Net Promoter Score, which is effectively a scale that shows how happy or satisfied people are with the service? Can I see the customer retention? So how many of my customers are actually sticking around after a certain date? Are we losing customers after 6 months or a year? Is there a reason for that? So again, can we get into the sort of finer details of what's happening and start to ask these questions? Finally, does the solution deliver a personalized experience? Has it got the capability to do this? So personalization is a core part of digital transformation. It's very important. So this infographic illustrates how important this actually is. So 52% of marketers agree that personalization or the ability to do that is fundamental to their online strategy. Buyers, people who are in the purchase phase, they are smart. They're well informed. They can go to Google, they can go to Facebook, they can find out what's on offer. So as sellers or as businesses that are offering services, it's very competitive. So really, it's imperative for us as business owners or people who are involved with sales or marketing to personalize the experience. Yet, we see down at the bottom, only 32% of marketers say that their technology enables this personalization. So again, we have to ask ourselves, can I do this with the technology that I'm wanting to implement? So how is this done? And again, ask this from the point of view of, can my on-premise solution do this? Or is it possible with a cloud-based? So we can do this by using personal data that our website visitors are giving us or that we've extracted on sales calls. We can see their browser history, what they've been looking at on our website. We can look at the purchase history and what they're doing on our site. So ask yourself the question whether my system, my technology can actually help with this. Okay, so we covered quite a lot, and I really do appreciate you taking the time to follow along with me. Hopefully that's given you some food for thought as to what type of technology you can use to implement your own digital transformation technology or strategy rather. I know, Isna, you wanted to mention a few things about how we can help on the digital transformation journey, if you're still on the call. Oh, maybe you're gone. Okay, not to worry. So, Isna, are you there?
Hello?
Yep, Isna, can you hear me? Okay.
Hello?
Isna, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can I add on something here?
Yeah, you can still see the screen.
Sure. Okay, so everybody, where Citrix stand is basically we have more than 200 developers out there in our team, and we have like successfully delivered projects for Fortune 400 companies as Fortune 500 companies as well, and we have delivered projects in multiple industries. And our biggest customers are like Live Nation, which have like more than 10,000 employees and 1,000 users of Salesforce. So Citrix really have expertise on delivering the right technology in the right customized manner that any organization can utilize it very well. Because what happens sometimes, we do get customers who have actually bought a certain subscription, but they don't know how to use it. Probably they are not trained well, or secondly, that platform is not implemented correctly on their business. And a very big example I can give you is for STC. STC bought Salesforce, but they were not able to use it properly because it was not customized as per the company, processes. So this is where Citrix stands out. We have amazing team who can take on the discoveries, who can understand your business, your workflows, and we have like excellent delivery timeline. Whatever timeline of project we submit, we actually comply with it, rather than I know other providers that they might commit you for a 4-month delivery time, but it might drag to even 1 year. So these are the real time, issues that come up with implementers. One, they don't know how to implement it correctly, how to customize it correctly, or how to understand your pain points well. Secondly, they don't, might have a good, a part on the training. And the one another very good thing is that when we are submitting or when we are deploying a technology, we also train 1 or 2 employees on the administration level as well. So any small customizations or add-ons they can do by themselves, which usually other partners don't do. They want the customer to completely rely on them and just bill them lifetime. And this is not the strategy of Citrix. We work hand on hand with a very, very long-term relationship building, and this is where we stand out. So I'm very confident all these people out here who are attending this webinar, I'm sure there must be certain goals in your mind, or you might be, having certain pain points, certain objectives you might be having, and Citrix can work with you as the best partner. We can do any kind of automation, whether you're having a problem in your marketing side or in your sales nurturing or in your after sales, service side. We can do a lot for you for sure. So shall we start the Q&A session, Sean, after this?
Yes, please. Thanks very much, Isna.
So we completely, welcome you to ask any questions. You can type on, and we are going to address those questions and get back to you with the best answers.
So, were there any questions asked during the webinar, isn't it, in the chat?
No, actually, I don't see any, Sean.
Okay, not to worry. Hopefully the webinar answered a lot of questions, so. It's okay if there's no questions. We can leave it there. We will be following up with people after this anyway, so we can answer any further questions that you might have.
Sure. Where's the chat box? I want to type in my email.
So I suppose one question that might.
Your email and your number as well here.
Yeah, just a second. I'll just throw my email in here into the chat. So one question that might come up is the security of cloud and say how a financial institution is using it. Well, despite the security concerns that maybe surround cloud, it is very secure. Unfortunately, the breaches that you hear are very well publicized, but that actually happens on a very rare basis. Cloud-based technology fundamentally uses very high-tech software to make it secure. So it's hidden behind many different types of firewalls that protect it from things like DDoS attacks, which you might have heard of before, from brute force attacks. There's a lot of different systems and technology involved that make it very, very difficult for somebody to actually access data that they shouldn't have. With the result that when it comes to being used by a financial institution, they can very often decide upon using a hybrid cloud solution. So we discussed this in some detail, but what it allows them to do is separate their data. When it comes to strictly regulated finance information, that can be held on their own private cloud instance. So only they have access to this. And this uses all of the security technology involved, all the encryption, all of these firewalls that exist. But then for more general information about their branches and about other aspects of the business that are not sensitive, they can store this on a public cloud where perhaps they're sharing the server with somebody else. But that doesn't matter because that data is not of a sensitive nature. So really, cloud can be used in many different applications. The security concerns, although they are there, they're very well addressed, and any cloud-based solution that you decide on will have all of the supporting documentation, and they will usually have a dedicated security team as well. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, we can leave it there.
Okay, so thank you everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining. I hope that was very helpful. And and Sean, that was an amazing presentation from your side. Thank you for the efforts, and thank you for sharing this amazing information for all of us.
No problem at all. Yeah. The webinar will go out, a replay of it that you can share or look at again. And yes, we'll be able to connect on LinkedIn. A number of different emails will be sent out by myself to everybody who attended. So yeah, let's connect on LinkedIn. And if you have any further questions or anything, we can start the conversation there.